Hello everyone, this is Chris from Spoon Graphics, back with another video tutorial. Rather than show you how to create a specific effect, this time I thought I'd create more of a general guide to help you learn new tips and tricks. So the topic I have in mind is cutting stuff out in Photoshop. Clipping a subject from its background has to be one of the most common tasks a designer will encounter in their everyday working life. Back when I worked at a local design studio, we had a job where we had to clip out about 5,000 product images of ornate coving, ceiling roses and all kinds of fancy decorative plaster mouldings, which quickly got me used to drawing and saving paths with the pen tool. The pen tool is the go-to tool for cutting most things out, but there's some cool techniques you can use for hair, fur and other specialty subjects. So let's crack on and look at the tools we have available in Photoshop. Let's start with the quick and dirty selections. Sometimes you just need to quickly remove something from its background with no questions asked. If the final result doesn't have to be pixel perfect, there's a range of Photoshop tools that offer you quick and easy clipping solutions. If the first tool you'll reach for is the eraser when you're faced with the task of cutting something out, you need a slap on the wrist. The eraser tool should really be left in Microsoft Paint. In Photoshop, layer masks provide the same functionality but without destructively editing your images. However, with that said, if you have a steady hand or your fingers are hovering over the undo button, the eraser tool can quickly rub out portions of an image you don't want. Just be careful near the edges. The magic wand was probably the first tool we all discovered as Photoshop newbies, but as you level up in experience you soon realise its capabilities don't stretch very far. However, the magic wand is a great little tool for cutting out simple images where there's clear definition between the edges. The quick selection tool is a step up from the magic wand. Rather than let Photoshop make all the decisions, with this tool you can paint over the exact areas you want masking and Photoshop will apply a mask based on your instructions. It's much easier than the trial and error of the magic wand tool's tolerance setting. Right, now we've got the basic stuff out of the way, we can look at the pro techniques. As the saying goes, if you want something doing, then do it yourself. It might be tedious, but the best clipping results often come from manually drawing a selection around your subject. The lasso tool is another somewhat newbie tool that beginners rely on until they graduate to the pen tool. The lasso tool is great for quick selections, but its series of straight edges and the frustration of accidentally double clicking and closing the selection too soon can make this tool a nightmare when used for more advanced selections. The pen tool has so many more benefits over the lasso tool. For starters, you can create curved outlines, which is useful for those of us who live outside the Minecraft world. The pen tool also creates paths that can be edited and saved for future use, which are valuable features when working on real-world projects. The basic mechanics of the pen tool's Bezier curves could take an entire video to explain, but once you've mastered this tool it becomes your new best friend. Trace your image, making an accurate path within a few pixels inside the edge of your subject to avoid capturing any slithers of background in your cutout, then close the path back at the starting point. This path can be tweaked using the direct selection tool, or you can save it by giving it a new name under the paths panel for easy reselection later. Your path can be converted into a selection at any time. You can even add feathering to eliminate any harsh edges. So the pen tool is the Swiss Army knife of Photoshop tools. There's not many situations where this thing can't be used, but there might be other techniques that are faster, especially when trying to tackle complex stuff like hair, fur or fine details. Now, tonal selections is the name I'm using for techniques that use the overall contrast and colour of an image to make a selection. These methods are great for ultra detailed images where it's just not feasible to draw a selection manually. Every image is made up of a red, green and blue channel that each contains a different tonal version of the picture. Channels have the ability to create the most perfect selections from ultra fine details such as hair or fur, but they don't work well with detailed backgrounds or where there's lack of contrast. In the channels panel, toggle the visibility of the red, green and blue channels individually to find the one with the highest contrast between the areas you want and the areas you don't. Drag it over the new icon to make a duplicate. You can increase the contrast further by adjusting the levels or curves to darken the blacks and lighten the whites. Once you've achieved good contrast between the fine details of your image, you'll also need to fill in any remaining areas of your desired selection manually with a black brush. Load the selection of your channel by command or control clicking on the thumbnail from the channels panel. Whenever you have an image with clear contrast between your subject and the background, the channels will provide the best and cleanest selection. They're especially great when selecting hair or fur, but only if the background is clean. Colour range from the select menu is a handy tool that can be used to make quick selections based on the tones of an image. It's particularly useful to select highlights or shadows, or if you need to select areas of a specific colour from your image. Go to select colour range to open up the colour range options. You can now choose from sampled colour, your chosen foreground colour selection, or pick from highlights, midtones or shadows if you only need to select bright or dark areas of an image. Masks are the ultimate non-destructive editing tools. Rather than permanently erasing your image, they hide the unwanted portions just in case you want to edit the selection later. Draw your masks manually or use them with any of the previously mentioned selection techniques to temporarily delete portions of your image. Layer masks are applied to a single layer by selecting the Add Layer Mask icon at the bottom of the Layers panel. Whatever areas of the mask are black are the portions of the layer that are hidden. We talked about layer masks being a better alternative to the eraser tool earlier. To use this technique with a mask, you would use the brush tool in place of the eraser and paint those unwanted areas away with the black brush. The key difference is if you make a mistake, you can rectify it by painting back over the area in white. Clipping masks are similar to layer masks, except they can be applied to multiple layers. They still work on the same principle of black areas are hidden and white areas are visible. Alt-click between two layers in the layer panel, or right-click on your chosen layer and select Make Clipping Mask from the menu. Remember to place the clipping mask under your main image in the layer stack. Now you've got a full arsenal of selection techniques, you're ready to tackle any kind of image your projects throw at you, but I've got a few more selection tips that can really help achieve the perfect result. The channels technique is perfect for cutting out model shots against a perfect studio background, but for every other scenario the Refine Edge tool is your best option. This tool should really be named the Hair tool, as that's really all I've seen it used for. It takes your basic magic wand, pen or lasso selection and expands it to intelligently capture all those fine details. Trace a path around the subject but roughly outline any areas of fur or hair, not worrying about the fine strands. Go to Select and Refine Edge and increase the radius value to see the hair magically appear in the selection. Expand the brush options and paint over the areas of hair you want to keep with the Refine Radius tool. Switch over to the Erase Refinements tool and paint around any areas where this Refine Edge adjustment isn't required. The final selection will hopefully make a good hair selection even against the most detailed of backgrounds, as long as there's enough contrast. Sometimes when you paste your cutout onto a darker background, you'll notice it has a very fine light outline or halo. There's a super way to eliminate this using the defringe option. Go to Layer, Matting and Defringe and enter 1 pixel in the options. With just one click of a button, that ugly outline will be gone. Be careful though, this can ruin your cutouts with extremely fine details. The tonal selection method that uses the channels can generate a perfect selection if the contrast and tone of the image is right. Levels and curves adjust the whole image, but you can fine-tune specific areas with the dodge and burn tools. Use the dodge tool to brighten areas of the image such as the sky. A blue sky will appear mid-grey in the channel selection, but you can brighten it up to add more contrast between it and your main subject. The burn tool can help darken areas within a selection that might be too delicate to paint with a pure black brush. Change the mode to shadows, midtones or highlights to safely target the right area. Sometimes it's just impossible to make a clean selection of a person's hair from an extremely busy background. In those situations, there's one final tip that can save the day: paint them some new hair. Make a rough selection around the subject's hairline and paste the cutout on a new layer. Reduce the opacity of the original image below it in the layers panel. Use the smudge tool with a fine brush to paint back in the individual hairs. Begin with a 3 to 4 pixel soft brush to flesh out the thick base, then incrementally reduce the brush to paint in finer stray hairs. This sounds like an extremely tedious process, but it doesn't take too long, especially if you have a graphics tablet. Now, I don't have much experience with Photoshop plugins, so I can't make any personal recommendations, but I know there's a range of selection-based plugins out there for Photoshop. Fluid Mask is a popular choice that has features designed specifically for selecting complex hair, trees, glass and translucent fabrics. If you find yourself spending countless hours cutting out images, you might find a little extra help from a plugin can speed up your workflow and improve your results. So I hope you found this guide useful. If you learned anything new, a thumbs up on YouTube or a share with your friends on Twitter or Facebook would be a massive help to spread the word. If you want to put your new tricks into practice, you can find a bunch of tutorials on my YouTube channel and on my website at spoon.graphics. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you later.